Age of by Oneohtrix Point Never. Age of by Oneohtrix Point Never is my favorite record. The exact album I listen to most frequently in any given period of time admittedly shifts around pretty much constantly, what with the amount of music being actively released and circulated these days. But I still find it endlessly refreshing and entertaining to revisit Age of quite frequently. On the topic of music and how we engage with it, I try to balance the convenience of streaming music with enjoying physical media, or more ethically sourced digitally mediated music formats like download cards that are bundled with physical media, or platforms like Bandcamp or Bleep that tend to support artists more directly than streaming does. When I'm not listening to physical media, I'm most regularly streaming music as a giant mashed up playlist of 30,000 something liked songs on shuffle. However, that's more of an effort to be exposed to the widest sort of network of music that I can, kind of casting a wide net just to see what I can find that I might like. Because you can't beat the joy of discovering something that you truly resonate with. I will frequently add an entire artist's discography to my liked songs if I hear something from them that I kind of get into. And that's just sort of an effort to keep that reservoir of, I'm pretty sure, mostly unheard tracks in my streaming services liked songs playlist. Despite my use of streaming services and shuffled playlists, I still have a deep appreciation for the format of a long play record. As far as albums go, specifically records that are created with a genuine sense of intentionality and an identifiable thematic thrust, I've been continually thinking about Age of by Oneohtrix Point Never. Real name, Daniel Lopatin. I can confidently say that from around spring of 2022 to now, winter 2026, Age of by OPN continually embodies my personal platonic ideal of a favorite record. A big reason why I've latched onto this LP for as long as I have is because it just clicked with me in a unique and unshakable way. It was so perplexing and different that I eventually became somewhat obsessed with the record, and I wanted to collect my feelings and various musings on the LP into some sort of a document, or video, or essay, some kind of video essay thing. I've been wrestling with the urge to channel my interest in Age of into a creative project for years now. I've drafted countless outlines and prototype documents, but the finalization of any given work seems to have always kind of eluded me. It's easy to get caught up in scope creep when the subject matter you're covering spans from the dawn of the Anthropocene to a far distant imagined post-human future. But a far distant imagined post-human future is the conceit of the meta-narrative of Age of and its associated live shows or tour called Myriad. Myriad refers to both the actual live installation concerts as well as the conceptual lore of the album. All the music you hear off Age of and during the live shows are, as the concept goes, the generative results of the machinations of monolithic sentinel singularity AI beings. They exist at the end of the universe, and to entertain themselves, they endlessly replay the fragmented memory detritus of the now long extinct human race. So the scope of potential connections you could make to a narrative that spans that stretch of time is far-reaching, to say the least. But I've decided to embrace the potential incompleteness that haunts any creative endeavor and just unapologetically record my various thoughts and conclusions. This is my attempt to arrange those jumbled thoughts, observations, and unique syncretic idiosyncrasies. The time has come to render this gargantuan and Pantagruelian work of electronica arcana into a, hopefully, enjoyably long-winded video essay. Before going on, I think it's worth pointing out that I am not at all versed in the technical aspects of music theory, nor am I classically trained in any shape, way, or form. While I make music, the bulk of what I know about music composition is the basic surface level functions of a handful of individual synthesizers and drum machines and samplers. And even in that realm, with the machines I own and use every day, there's a world of knowledge I'm still not privy to. But I am an avid collector of records as well as a handful of cassettes and CDs. Listening to music is just one of my biggest hobbies. But my musical perspective is much less rooted in hard theory. I approach music analysis from a more media studies point of view, I guess you could say. So the way I think about music is much more loose and conceptual than the way someone classically trained might. I'm assuming they would have a lot more technical knowledge and know an entire lexicon of notation and theory. And I would love to hear someone who knows their stuff break down the record in music theory terms. But as far as music goes, I'm just some guy who loves records and making simple analog synth beats, and these are my weird little takes on my favorite weird little album. That's not at all to say I will shy away from talking about the music. I have quite a lot to say when it comes to the actual sonic composition of the record. There's a whole section of this video essay where I break down sort of each song and the sort of key moments of that song and things that I sort of take away from those moments and the listening experience as a whole. It's just worth remembering that whatever insights I may have to offer on any given work of music mentioned going forward, it will be approached from a lens more heavily rooted in the methodology of something like art history or literary studies or film studies or game criticism. Kind of a more subjective kind of thing. In college, I studied and got my bachelor's degree in game design, which at my old university was part of the interdisciplinary studies program. Even though Age of is a musical project, not a video game, my education has equipped me with a perspective of media analysis and a toolkit of strategies when it comes to creative ideation and problem solving, which I have been very grateful for as I've been in the process of writing this video essay. It's oddly fitting that my degree classification was interdisciplinary, and the associated courses of stuff like interdisciplinary research, game writing and criticism, and media studies and art history have all seemed to have been a sort of primer for this project's research process. It's also interesting that the terminology of cross-disciplinary endeavors cropped up quite a few times in my OPN interview reading I did as research for the essay. Myriad, after all, was an interdisciplinary installation to its core. I picked out a couple of quotes from interviews with Daniel Lopatin where they refer to Age of and the Myriad concertscape as an interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary sort of endeavor. Elements of the show with abstract panels for projections in front of swollen inflatable forms and sculptures hanging from the ceiling could adapt well to the environs of an art gallery. And certainly no aspect of Lopatin's output lacks for the kind of expositional grounding and interdisciplinary connections that power many lesser bodies of work. Andy Battaglia for Art News. It feels good to make a multidisciplinary show because as a fan of music, I would hate to go to concerts all the time and feel like there's something that needs to be addressed. Daniel Lopatin for The Line of Best Fit. I don't often consciously transfer influences, although in general, this kind of interdisciplinary thinking makes sense to me. In all honesty, I'm not purely interested in film score composition in the traditional sense. It's more compelling for me to think about hybridizing some of the functional aspects of sound in film. Daniel Lopatin for Mos Magazine. And in May, he will stage a monumental cross-discipline concertscape at New York's Park Avenue Armory. Christopher R. Weingarten for Rolling Stone. But just to put it quite simply, this is a vibes-based approach to music analysis, not at all one rooted in the mechanics of music theory. But I'm sure Age of could be wonderfully dissected and examined by someone with that musicological background. And even though the attitude and academic rigor of this essay is a bit more lax than a professional research paper, if I'm asserting something that can be potentially disputed or is of central importance to understanding Oneohtrix Point Never or Age of, I will do my best to provide some sort of list of functional citations. I want to make sure that this citation outline allows sources cited for this video essay to be easily retrievable by the viewer, should they want to verify anything I say in their own time. Some of the claims and observations I make about the record might seem kind of abstract or outlandish, but when held up against Oneohtrix Point Never's own words on the record, my bizarre conclusions have some degree of subjective legitimacy because they, in my opinion, reflect Lopatin's own ideas and driving vision behind Age of and Myriad. I never want to be putting words in anyone's mouth or think that I could perfectly understand the intent behind any work of art, or reduce a person's whole life to a footnote. So I want to include direct quotes from outside sources and perspectives whenever possible. Thoughtful usage of quotations only serves to rhetorically strengthen the impact of my argument. There are quite a few reasons why Age of by Oneohtrix Point Never is my favorite record, and I will dive into all those reasons as this video essay progresses. But from the jump, I wanted to lay out my intended goals with this project. Obviously, I want to dissect and analyze why the record means as much to me as it does, but another main goal of this video is to encourage those who have never listened to the album to check it out, and inspire those who have already given it a spin in the past to revisit this absolute gem of an LP. There's a lot going on underneath the hood, so to speak, and I feel like the record only stands to benefit from repeat listening, as it does with the additional metatextual context, a great deal of which is pulled from the interviews from the album's 2018 rollout. My enduring fascination with Age of is the product of the bold ambition and uniqueness of the album, along with its implicitly embedded pseudo-structural lenses of mythological associative world building. It's really fascinating how once the notion of a meta-narrative is stated, those ideas and concepts are in turn invoked through the music itself. And while somewhat ephemeral or esoteric, those associations don't seem accidental by any means. The record reflects the extremely vivid and oddly interconnected headspace that the composer, Daniel Lopatin, was immersed within while writing and recording the music. I think that this record really deserves a widespread reappraisal by the OPN fan community and truly deserves a spot within the greater canon of remarkable electronic music released in the last decade. Boppy beep boop 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 boop. Am I saying that right? Let's see. This next section is sort of the more dry statistics and catalog numbers and release dates for Age of, the Age of era, the Age of. Age of catalog number WARP 295 is a 2018 electronica, baroque pop, avant-garde electronic album by electronic musician Oneohtrix Point Never, the main alias and body of output for Daniel Lopatin. The record was released through Warp Records, and within his discography follows his 2017 release of the Good Time Original Motion Picture Soundtrack, catalog number WARP 292, as well as his solo 2015 project Garden of Delete, catalog number WARP 266. And precedes his 2019 record, Uncut Gems Original Motion Picture Soundtrack, catalog number WARP 308, released under his real name, Daniel Lopatin, and his 2020 semi-self-titled pandemic record, Magic Oneohtrix Point Never, catalog number WARP 318, which, interestingly enough, is actually a callback, or echo, if you will, of the moniker he used for the initial cassette release of Betrayed in the Octagon, released under the moniker of Magic Oneohtrix Point Never, before he kind of truncated it to just Oneohtrix Point Never for future releases. And we'll dive into it more, but that alias or pseudonym of Oneohtrix Point Never has a pretty interesting kind of origin. Age of is 13 tracks, clocking in at 42 minutes and 38 seconds long. However, the Japanese edition of the album has an additional track, Trance 1, which would also appear on the supporting EPs The Station and We'll Take It, making that variation of the record clock in at a running time of 46 minutes and 32 seconds. Age of's June 1st release was preceded by the album's lead single, Black Snow, catalog number WARP DD295A, with a music video directed by Daniel Lopatin himself, released on April 26th, 2018. The Age of album was supported by additional singles and EPs also released in 2018 after the LP's June release. The Station EP, catalog number WAP 424, was released on July 27th and was preceded by a music video on July 23rd, 2018. The nearly identical Will Take It EP, catalog number WAP424 as well, was released on the same day and almost exclusively exists as a physical version of the Station EP with a different cover and first track. Like the Station, Will Take It also had its own accompanying music video released on the same day as the Station music video, July 23rd, 2018. And the final supporting release for Age of was the Love in the Time of Lexapro EP, WAP429D, released on November 22nd, 2018. The main reasons I find Age of so continually engaging is it just comes down to its specific niche that it inhabits within OPN's full discography. Its utilization of themes, concepts, and ideas, its interesting forward-thinking sonic composition, the ambitious live performance element of the project's associated live shows, and its iconic, captivating visual design. So, in general, it's four main points that really draw me to the record, just kind of have it continually be on my mind. It's the concept behind the record, all of the sort of associated lore, I guess you could say, the actual music itself, like the sonic dynamics of the record when you're listening to it, the just style and scope and ambition of the live shows was just, it's like something I've never seen before. I've seen Oneohtrix before, but I haven't ever seen the Myriad tour. I've seen videos of it, and I've listened to a recording of one of the concerts, but it's just like, from an outside observer perspective, it's something that's just completely, continuously fascinating. And then finally, the design and visual kind of element of the records. I think that is one of the strongest aspects of it. And also the visual design of the live shows. Like these four kind of main elements, they kind of intersect with one another in interesting ways. Like there are ways that the visual dimension of the record reinforces the conceptual dimension, and the music kind of echoes the concept or maybe elements of the visuals. So these are not like super concrete categories. They're more kind of like loose fields of certain aspects that kind of converge on one another, that create a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. But having a cursory knowledge on Oneohtrix Point Never's career preceding Age of is, I think, very useful context for emphasizing the notability and sheer uniqueness of the record. So, who is OPN?